know how to communicate because some of us didn't know the language. But there was, that compassion and that trying to help. And they would tell the community that, something's coming, armies are coming, just literally tell you to run. So I remember that. Anyway, long story short, later on, I grew to learn that, more about the Congolese history, about the natural resources, the wealth, and the long history of exploitation, of violence that affects generations. And then I realized that the global narrative of Congo, it was often incomplete. And too often Congo is introduced through statistics, numbers, through conflict reports, another report, through images of suffering, but my first introduction still there, and it was through humanity, through that support that I received. Yes, there's a lot of stability and millions who were killed, millions are displaced, but I encountered that place of resilience, very, very rich culture, strength, and community who continue to build, love and worship and sing and raise children, live their normal lives as normal as they can be. So Congo for me was not just, a corridor where I passed through. It became my survival story. And it shaped my understanding of displacement. And I think from my introduction, it sort of shapes the future in terms of being strong, trying to help others, and try to empower, especially in the humanitarian space. That's where I've worked, that's where my studies are, to try to make a difference, to try to help, to contribute, so that not what happened as a child doesn't happen to anyone else. Anyway, I think I can talk about my story for a long time, but I'll bring back to tonight. And as I said, my story in Survivors Uncensored is number 75. And I'll always reflect, while I survived, millions of Congolese did not. As we speak now, there are millions of Congolese children who are still experiencing this exact fear that I experienced, this hunger, this exhaustion, these mixed emotions that I experienced, and worse. Congo have one of the largest number of internally and externally displaced people. Yeah, and the daily scramble of survival has been ongoing for 30 years for Congolese people. So I think as we go through this reflection, our goal is justice, so that no other children or adults have to face situations like this, because it's still happening, and no one should ever have to suffer like that. So as we go on tonight, I hope that you will join us in this pursuit of justice and take action to bring about change that is so badly needed. So we have, I think at the moment I will pass to someone else in the program, and sorry, Claude, can you just help me? I'm gonna have a quick break.
Okay. Yeah. Let me. I can do the reading of the stories.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the stories that you're hearing, these are real lived experiences of people. And right now, as we speak, the Congolese people are going through this, and even worse. So the readings from Survivors Uncensored that we're starting with, these are going to be short readings. The stories are going to be brief because we've just extracted what is relevant to Congo. This one is story number 77. The survivor's name is Jean-Pierre Nyambeta, and he's one of the many survivors who are co-authored his story in this book, Survivors Uncensored. And so the part that I'm reading goes, as the war progressed in Rwanda, the RPF, the Rwandese Patriotic Front, which for those who don't know is the party in power in Rwanda, back to the story. As the RPF, the rebel group that started the war in 1990, took over more territory, we fled to Congo. We got to Congo in September 1994. And even though I was a child, I wanted to know everything that was happening. I initially lived in a refugee camp in South Kivu near the town of Bukavu. In October 96, the RPF invaded Congo and started bombing and shooting into refugee camps, all packed with people. There were all kinds of people in the refugee camps, and the bombing was indiscriminate. Women, children, old people, young people, the disabled, Hutus, Tutsis, Twas, Congolese, they were all getting hit and killed in masses. One of our most painful memories is seeing some of our family members and neighbors killed in the camps in this invasion. Even though I was a child, I kept wondering how it would all end, seeing people dying all around me. So many times I prayed my last prayers facing imminent death. Despite that, I kept running and fleeing, not knowing where I was running to. I was saying to myself that even if I die, I try to preserve my life. It was a long, painful, and sad journey. Some of the things I will never forget were the way the Congolese helped refugees on the run. They helped refugees even though the RPF would brutally kill Congolese who helped refugees. One day I was in the Congolese jungle and a group of Congolese people passed by and I was hiding. I coughed and they came back. We spoke and I told them that I was a Rwandan, and they said to me, hurry up and come with us so that the RPF will not find you here and kill you the way they are killing other Rwandans. It was also Congolese people that helped me get on the boat from Bandaka to cross into the Republic of Congo, which is neighboring to the DRC. I was the last person to get on that boat that left Mbandaka before the RPF took it over. There was a Congolese soldier who saved my life. I was running to the boat in Bandaka and there were shootings and bombings falling around us. Many people on the boat were begging for the boat to leave, but he refused, saying that if they left me, I'd be killed. They allowed me on the boat and my life was saved that way. Congolese people helped us a lot and I'm grateful for them. While we were on the run, life was extremely difficult. There was no place to sleep or rest. Every refugee camp I stopped in, including Tingi Tingi, was destroyed and thousands of people were butchered. Besides bullets, bombs, and knives by the RPF, many people died of fatigue, starvation, and disease. Those who were weak lost their lives on that long road. Some families were completely wiped out. There was a time when starvation was so bad that I had to resort to unusual ways of to get any food. Being a young boy, whenever I saw a family eating or a group of people eating, I would join them and pretend to be with them and start eating without being welcomed. Whenever they asked who I was or what was going on, I would apologize and take off running. But I would have at least had a couple of bites. Whenever I would get to a river, I would bathe in the river and wash my clothes since I had no change of clothes. By the time I exited Congo, I had lost my parents and some of my siblings. I was an unaccompanied minor, but I lived to tell the story. That is the story for Jean-Pierre Nyameta. I just want to sit and take a quick break before we go into the next story. I actually know Jean-Pierre. I've met him many times. Jean-Pierre, if you're watching, I know there are hundreds of people watching now on the stream, on the Friends of the Congo YouTube, on Twitter, Friends of the Congo, also my Twitter page, and the Tubman Network's YouTube page and their social networks. So if you are watching on any one of these, Jean-Pierre, We hear you and we see you, and all the Congolese people that you mentioned and you talked about, we see them also. We have another reading from Survivors Uncensored, also in Congo. And this story is a young woman. She was a young woman. So Jean-Pierre was, I believe he was 12 or 13 when all of this was happening. Marie Bamutese was 12, I believe, when she started running, from my recollection. So here's the story for Marie Bamutese. It goes, I was 14 years old when Rwanda invaded Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, in 1996, and destroyed the refugee camps. We were lucky that our camp was far from Rwanda. We were able to flee in time before the arrival of RPF soldiers. Only those who were weak and sick remained in the camp, and they were killed in the very inhumane ways. Not only were refugees and Congolese massacred, but also Spanish Catholic brothers Miguel Angel Isla Lucio and Fernando de la Fuente, Julio Rodriguez, Jorge, and Servando Mayor Garcia were brutally murdered in that massacre. As we fled, we thought that it was, as we fled, we thought that if we entered the forest, the rainforest, the interior of Zaire, we would be protected. It didn't last long. We realized that we were being chased and people were being killed. We continued fleeing, and at one point, even those who had cars abandoned them because they couldn't drive them into the forest. This is when the real ordeal began, the long walk to death. There was no path, so we followed the footprints. Sometimes we got lost because we didn't know the correct direction to follow. In some cases, we would find ourselves in the same place after walking for 2 days. Even the young people who were fast and went to scout places for us to go, for places to go, were attacked. It seemed as though these attacks in front and behind were organized. There was also a natural selection where all people and children were at high risk of dying. The slightest injury meant death. It was scary to see the babies sucking on breasts of their dead mothers. It was also horrifying to see moms abandoning their children in despair. As a mother today, I realize how hard it was for them to do such a thing. Many of these atrocities were reported in the UN Mapping Exercise report for Congo released in 2010, but there was one place, Sanyi camp, that was curiously not included in the UN Mapping report. This is proof that not all major atrocities have been documented yet. During the ordeal, I ran into a Congolese mother selling flour who asked me my first name, who we were, and where we were going. I answered that my name was Marie and that I was with my mother, my sisters, and my nephew, even though we were not together at that moment. This woman said to me, "Do you know that it's dangerous here? I myself only come during the day. In general, people are killed here at night or very early in the morning." Then she told me to go find my mother because she was going to hide us. She also had a daughter named Marie. I found my mother with my sisters, my grandmother, and my nephew. We went without hesitation to this lady's house. She went to hide us in the forest where her family was also hiding. Then one morning we heard the bombing of the Sanyi camp. We could see the smoke coming down through the huge trees of the forest. We saw the refugees running away, and I recognized one name, Mama Grace, who was pregnant. I saw her give birth right there. She was bleeding with a baby in her arms, and I don't know if this woman and her baby are still alive. There was death everywhere. This is the place where my grandmother passed away as well. At this time, I would also like to pay tribute to my little niece that I was carrying as we fled, who died while still on my back. It was terribly traumatic because I was still a child myself. In some locations, we were also chased by Congolese militias who were paid to flush out refugees. The Congolese who protected the refugees asked them to work in their fields, and we only ate once a day. For most of that time, we were starving and exhausted. There were 6 male Rwandan refugees hiding in the homes of Congolese that were all killed in the fields. And because of the persecution, the consequences to the Congolese who hit us, and the trauma they faced, even the Congolese who still had compassion were now afraid to hide Rwandan refugees. Some even chased them away from their homes. Seeing skeletons at that time had become commonplace. Some Congolese people jokingly told us to go and say hello to our brothers and sisters by showing us the skeletons. The Congolese woman who hit us remained faithful to us. She did not chase us away, but we had to change our hiding place several times. One day, a militia found us. They were like drugged demons. My mother begged them not to kill her children. They looked at us and said they wanted a woman. My mother offered herself, and these militiamen told her she was too old. They turned to me and raped me in front of my mother. I saw her terrified and helpless before this unspeakable crime. I know that there are many women who were raped during that time, and my heart goes out to them. There are 2 scenes that I'll never forget. One is where I saw real love in a couple where the husband was sick. I need to break for a second, please.
It's okay. I'll continue the reading. Let me see where they just go to the story. Really close when we're reading her story. Let me see. Bear with me a minute. I check where he was at too. That's the amount. Sorry. There are 2 scenes. Oh yeah. Okay. I got where he was. I'll continue the story. There are 2 scenes that I will never forget. One is where I saw real love in a couple where the husband was sick. You could hear him dying, and his wife stayed by his side until the end. The second scene, I was in the forest and felt like the living dead. I thought it was the apocalypse, that all people were living in the same situation and that the world had ended. I was under a tree next to dead children who must have been between 3 and 6 years old. Innocent human beings were killed, and now that these 3 children were already dead, there was a look of peace on their face, an end to their suffering. For some reason, these scenes reminded me of my mother's humanity. Despite having very little to eat, she shared her cassava flour with others in need. I am proud of her and thank her for giving us an example in humanity and a true love for our neighbors in spite of the difficult conditions we were in. In the summer of 1997, the Red Cross sent its volunteers into the forest to look for survivors. When they saw us, they offered to take us back to Rwanda. My mother told them that if they were going to kill us, they could do it there because we were already dead. But we had no choice, so we followed them. In the forest, I saw small white pieces. I was intrigued. Then I asked the volunteer, who told me that they were human bones piled up. We passed RPF soldiers who gave us nasty looks. We arrived at an airport in Hamisi, where a plane to Goma in eastern Congo was waiting. My mother heard that once in Goma, the unaccompanied children were separated from the rest of the groups. So my mother told me that once we were in Goma, I should follow the unaccompanied children with my nephew. She had a feeling that if we all stayed together, we would all be killed. Since I always obeyed my mother, once in Goma, I did exactly as she said. I saw my mother leaving with my little sisters towards Gisenyi in Western Rwanda. I did not know what this was, not know that this was the last time I would see my mother. I learned that my mother was killed once she got into Rwanda. At the end of 1997, they were supposed to close the camp for unaccompanied children. Because I had said that my family was from the south of Rwanda, though, I was sent to an orphanage in Bukavu. A clergyman in Bukavu advised me against going back to Rwanda because many people who were returning were being massacred. I took advantage of a moment of distraction by the camp guards when we were meant to go get water, and I escaped this transition camp orphanage. I sought refuge at a Catholic church. I stayed hidden in a room all day and only went out at night to get some air. The Rwandan military controlled Bukavu, and they were always looking for refugees. Finally, thanks to my auntie and her connections, I was able to leave the Congo and go to Belgium in 1999. From my journey, I learned that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think I will bring us back to the conversation today. After hearing these stories, let us take a minute. Let us take a minute of silence as we think about all those victims, as we think of the survivors, as we think of all the stories that, we and our colleagues had to, go through, most of us as children, and take this moment to think of everyone else who's in that kind of situation. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. These moments are tough, and not only for people who've lived this story or similar stories, but also for people who hear it. So I encourage everyone to take care and to reach out when needed. Patrice Lumumba wrote from prison in 1960 that history would one day speak, and that it would not be the history taught in European capitals, but one written by Africa itself. So history is speaking here, as hard as it is, but history is speaking. When testimony is heard directly, neutrality becomes difficult. We are no longer distant observers, we become witnesses. And witnessing carries responsibility, and I hope that that's what's happening here. We'll take a moment of break where we have a video from Tabma Network. If the video is ready, so we have. So as you watch, I guess allow yourself to feel the dignity that persists. Congo is not only a site of extraction and conflict; it is also a site of beauty, intelligence, and endurance. And the question before us is whether global systems allow that dignity to flourish. The video. Thank you.
سما الخرطوم قمنا لكن شاسبنا فتش سلام قبلان شعبي ماسك الزمام وسلاح الحيز بالحطام أمة واحدة بتاعت للكلام وده الكلام اللي بيجيب السلام في بلدنا منادور السلام في سودان نبي حليك حمام مكانك يا سودان في قلوبنا عذاب مكان تبقى أمان تبقى زي ما From the rivers of Congo to the desert of Sudan na New York Longo de Lusijam Dr. Hautento Sinjam Finyom Lumumba Bayi won war na Sijanga Ninyagi de Hamuisa Wade da for a peacekeeping be El Fasa Bagoma Butembo to Bunia tunataka
Sudan peace in Congo and let the world know from ancient to pro together as one the river flow. It make me sad, make me cry, make me feel so bad. You see the people, see the children cry. It make me sad, make me cry, make me feel so bad. People in Congo and Sudan die.
Twalia ama twataka ama upendo twalia ama twataka upendo salama tumechoka nami tumechoka kulala pasipo sababu wamebakwa watoto wameshinda shule amani salama upendo
غدروكم ما وعيتي منعوك في بيتك تبيتي وشكلك نسيت انك في يوم كنتي حضارة حاكمة اسمها التاسيتي أزمة جوع أزمة سكن أزمة مقر من دفن الخرطوم ساكنة الكدايس الجنة شايل العرايس وطن فاك العبادة السلام ده وين تركن نقول له ثم الموت في هزارنا غروب في أفكارنا منظمات والدول على دمارنا الصبر شدارنا الجمود سكن صغارنا يا ميديا اللي دايما رافضة أطفالنا يا ميديا اللي دايما رافضة أطفالنا
Why do we so the day for gift to come still at night? Find your strength, find your way. Turn to your family and that you die and believe today. When you fight for your right, it's better than to die not try. How can you be my savior and live to like oh, we can't take this no more. Can't you see all the flaws? All the blood, what is it for? Nothing.
Make me sad, make me cry, make me feel so bad. You see the people, see the women and children cry, no. It make me sad, make me cry, me feel so bad. See the people in Congo and Sudan die.
Thank you so much, Tama Network, for that music. Helps us reflect on what's happening, and we ask for peace for Congo, peace for Sudan. That music was beautiful. Thank you. Now we'll move on from discussion, and I'm delighted to welcome our panelists. So today we're joined by Francine Mukwaya Pombe, who's joining from the room. Thank you so much, Francine, for being there. And Kambale Msavuli is online. Welcome. And Claude Gashavuke, who's online as well. Welcome, everyone. So Francine Mukwaya Pombe is an activist and academic engaging in ethics, psychology, and social responsibility. Savuli is a human rights advocate and Pan-Africanist from the Democratic Republic of Congo, raising global awareness about ongoing violence and resource exploitation. And Claude Gateruke is co-author of Survivors Uncensored, a genocide survivor, Rwandan genocide survivor, and executive director of the Action Network. The three of them speak from proximity, consequence, and long-term engagement. So we begin, let's begin with a direct question, the panelists. What truth about Congo is consistently ignored or distorted in global discourse? Hello, Kambale, I'll start with you. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. I wish I was with you in person, and I want to thank all of you who have put together this event. And it's interesting, you asked me a question, I'm going somewhere else because I believe the people in the room are in Germany. I've been in the country twice. The second time I was there, I had a chance to go to the neighborhood where the Berlin conference was organized. I think it's today the majority Ethiopian community. And it's fascinating to be to have walked the street where the so-called Berlin conference took place. Over 100 years later, we, the Congolese, are being asked a very vital question, which was also a question to ask in 1885, right? February 26, 1885, European countries sat down to carve up the continent and give Congo to King Leopold. What do they do then that's relevant to your question? They always forget that Congolese are human beings. That's the most important thing for me. In all the discourse that has taken place in the Congo since 1996 to now, the discussion around the minerals being shared with Donald Trump, peace deal being signed left and right, they forget that we are human beings. They forget I am a human being. And he actually hit me this year, right? This year is 2026. The war in the Congo started in 1996. That's 30 years, which has made me have gray hair now, right? Imagine, not just for Congolese, but for Ugandans, for Rwandans, for Sudanese, because people do not know even Yoweri Museveni of Uganda is implicated in the killing of the Garang. You know, that there are allegations of the implication around there, and the millions of deaths in the Congo. The city of Uvira is under the Congolese government's control now. What is the news coming out this week that is important to Congolese? It's not that Willy Ngoma has been killed. I could care less if Willy Ngoma, the rebel leader, is killed, right? That's not the most important news. The most important news is, as the government has now control of the city of Uvira, we're finding mass graves. Mass graves of people, we do not know their names. We do not know their family members. And this has been ongoing for 30 years. And for the region, for over 30 years, where people have lost loved ones. They don't know if they're alive, if they were killed, if they're in a mass grave somewhere, or they are refugees somewhere around the world. So the most important thing that everyone forgets when we talk about the situation in the Congo is that Congolese people are human beings too.
Yeah, thanks, Kambale. And that cannot be closer to home, than to me, because I think I shared my story before you came, and when we were running through the ordeal in Congo, we lost my older brother, and he's one of those that we don't know if he's in one of those graves, if he's God knows where. So it's things that people don't understand. And I'm glad that you to voice that, and I'm glad that we're here to try and talk about it. It's as hard as it is, but these are the realities that we live with. Francine, I think I will put this to you as well. Talk about it. What else would you like to add? What are those? What truth about Congo is most consistently ignored or distorted in global discourse? Francine.
Much. Thank you for organizing this. This is just like one of the steps we need to kind of raise awareness about the issue of Congo. And in terms of your question, I would say is most of the people tend to forget that the war in Congo is they have this kind of mainstream media. Let me put it that way. They tend to that the war in Congo is because of a struggle. This is in terms of leadership. Leadership contributed, yes, but it's mostly the truth is the war in Congo is because of the continuity of exploitation. So people want to control the mineral in Congo. So how they're going to control it? They're going to control it by creating chaos, as Kambale said earlier. So it was years ago, we had the King Leopold II who created chaos, killed 10 million Congolese people for the rubber. Today, we have a rubber. The new rubber today is a cobalt, coltan. So that is the thingy. So it is the exploitation. People want to continue to have their hands in that with that mineral resources. So how are they going to have it? They need to have a chaos. They need the country to be in stable conflict everywhere in Congo for them to be able to have access to the mineral. So, and they're not going to put it out there that it is because of we want to have access to the mineral. Of course not. They're going to find an excuse, which is usually they're killing each other. There's no capable of leading the country, all those sort of things they usually do. Even if I have to talk about in terms of leadership, right? So they usually impose leaders. Yeah, that is something they impose leaders against the will of Congolese people. Let me say maybe probably Africa in general. So in 1960, Congolese people elected Patrice Emery Lumumba. So why did they assassinated him? So they killed him because he wanted Congolese mineral to benefit Congolese people. So for that single reason, they actually kill him. And that's the community. They don't want any respectable, any decent leader to lead the country, because if they have a decent leader, it's going to put into Congolese people face. So overall, if I have to conclude, is what the truth is, the continuity of exploitation of mineral. Everyone wants a piece of Congo, so everyone wants to control that minerals. That's the truth. That's fact. And like I said, or I always say, the war in Congo is economic. So they put it out, they hide it. They don't want to say it's us. I know this might sound cliche, stop blaming people, but that's the fact. It's the fact that the war in Congo is they want control of mineral, and Congolese have been chained for years. Yeah, so that is the truth that people don't want to talk about. Technically, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Francine. That's a really sad truth, and the reality that they're trying to hide, in that chaos. Before we continue, with Claude's contribution. I want to remind everyone to start sending your questions and your reflections in the chat through wherever you are calling from, YouTube, other socials. Send the questions, and then before we, when we finish our chat, we will get our colleagues to reflect on some of those questions. So thank you. I think, Claude, I will also get your reflection on this, but at the same time, sort of, because what they are saying, this is the realities that we know, and we're trying to, I guess, to tell people who don't know, who, trying to hide them. And we're speaking about responsibility, and we must, I guess, ask clearly, where does Europe material really benefit, and where does political silence protect economic interests? Claude.
Thank you, Delphine. It is a great honor to be here with you guys, with everybody. And for Black History event to be held by Tubman Network, the ancestor that I so much admire. So much, wish that so many people were like a woman who took so much risk to rescue and to help and to fight against an evil system like slavery in the US. I think it's really fitting. It's also fitting that we're talking about Congo, because what is happening in the Congo today, and the hidden truth is, I want to go back to the last question. I apologize, but I do want to go back to that, because the hidden truth is what we see today in the Congo is no different. It's of course there are some differences, but it's set up the same way that the transatlantic slave trade was set up, where back in those days, human beings, we were the merchandise. We were the people who were being kidnapped and then packed into these little buildings. I've been to Gorée Island in Senegal. The little rooms that they packed in like hundreds of people to put them on the boats. Some of them throw them off the boat, some of them get shot and things like that. That was a legalized system that was enabled by international, by the global community, international leaders at the time, which was multiple European countries, and their laws that allowed the corporations to go and exploit and take the people from their lands, bring them across the Atlantic into the Americas and enslave them. And slavery was also legal in the US and in the Caribbean and South America, and basically in the Americas, the whole Americas. What we have in Congo today, and in order for that to happen, so I talked about the governments enabling it, we had corporations that were doing the trading. You also had some local sellouts that were doing the same thing. We have that exactly today. That is the setup we have in the Congo. The Congo, what we have is a genocide that's been going on for the last 30 years, since 1996. Today is 2026, as Kambale said. This genocide is called by our colleagues, CAPE, which Francine is a part of, a genocost, the genocide for economic gain. And it's about accessing Congo's resources. It's about accessing the critical minerals that are used in military equipment. They're used in our phones. They're used for this green revolution, electric cars, and all of that. And that's obviously relevant to Europe and Germany with the move towards a bunch of electric cars and things like that. But what is hidden also is that the world is allowing it to happen and allowing the perpetrators to do it and to go into the Congo, invade and occupy, rape and pillage in the Congo so that they can access these minerals. These minerals are taken in for most of the world to consume. People in the Congo are suffering as a result. Some of the children aged 10, 11, 12 are enslaved in these mines. Companies from countries that are known for supposed to be progressive and support human rights. There used to be a website called conflictminerals.org. That's been hijacked since. This website actually had a list of companies that were exploiting the Congolese. A lot of the companies you wouldn't guess, but they're from Canada, companies on the Canadian stock market. There were many from Australia, Switzerland, and then of course the usual suspects, the Britain, the US, France, Belgium, and there were a handful of South African companies on that website. So these companies, again, are just like those global corporations who were doing the exploitation. Now, the local sellouts are your, Kambale spoke a little bit about it, the Paul Kagame's of Rwanda, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, and the other local sellouts that are willing to sell out sisters and brothers in the region, kill as many as they can to have to maintain their power and enrich themselves and continue this global supply. The last thing that I would say is that the role of the European countries, the European Union right now has a deal with Rwanda for minerals that Rwanda doesn't have, worth almost $1 trillion, I believe. If I misquoted this number, I'll double check it. They provide military support to Rwanda, European Union, the UK, and the US also. So there's many things, and while at the same time, on the other side of their mouth, are saying they condemn the actions of Rwanda and Congo. They didn't do that with Russia when Russia invaded the Ukraine. They went right to the sanctions. So just a lot of times this is presented as Africans killing Africans because of tribalism. That is a big lie. You have sellouts that have been unleashed on people on behalf of global nationals that are protected by the international community to allow them to commit these crimes. And I'll stop it there. Sorry, I didn't answer that question that you asked, but
no,
what was
okay.
hidden. Thank you.
No, thank you. Because I guess they all connected, and some are the usual suspects, some are not. So thank you for saying that and for clarifying that. Yeah, we have to keep talking and keep speaking, keep calling them out. And so I'm glad you just went back. I think we can get some reflection for the same question for Kambala. I know you talk about there's minerals and all that, but specifically, what can you say about that? Europe, how do they materially benefit? Specifically, like for the audience, for example, I don't know, for anyone who's not aware, please go ahead, Kambale.
We can start from Germany and probably the greater context of Europe. Germany specifically has had some of its companies listed by UN group of experts, and as well as the panel in the early 2000 for being part of companies pilfering Congo's resources, particularly Bayer. I think Bayer, the company that makes the Bayer aspirin, Bayer had subsidiaries getting access to Congo's coltan. That panel of experts in the early 2000s listed about 85 companies. They asked for countries where these companies are registered to take actions, and no actions has been taken on these companies. Another thing to really think about companies even operating in Europe. It's an example of one company in Luxembourg, Traxys. Traxys just last year, if I'm not mistaken, Global Witness wrote a report showing very clearly that the coltan coming from the mine in the Congo called Rubaya, and that mine was under rebel control of the M23, that the minerals left the Congo through rebel hands, made it into Kigali. A Kigali registered company in Rwanda sold those minerals to Traxys, and nothing happened. to that company today. The report is public. People put online, Global Witness, Traxxas, the reports, the methodology that they use for the research for everyone to see how they have the information and the evidence that the company registered in Luxembourg has access to Congo's mineral control by rebels who are raping, killing people, putting the dead in mass graves without any accountability. But then when you look now at the geopolitics, when I mentioned the company Traxxas, one will wonder why, when Europe was ready to sanction Rwanda, one country at the European Union blocked it, and that country was Luxembourg, right? That's also public information, that Luxembourg was one of the countries stopping the European Union from sanctioning Rwanda for supporting rebel groups in DRC. The same now is true in the United States. There's been talks in the US administration about sanctioning Rwanda for its actions in DRC. First, public disclosure, I do not support any unilateral sanctions by the US. I think that many of the sanctions are illegitimate, particularly on Venezuela and some of the Latin American countries. But in the case of the pressure on the US when it relates to the Congo to sanction Rwanda is because the United States and Europe militarily finance this country, and they use the weapons to support rebel groups and also send their own soldiers in the Congo to kill civilians and get access to minerals. So stopping that military support is critical. But you'll be surprised to know that the person who stopped the US sanctions on Rwanda is a US legislator. I think his name is Lindsey Graham. He received a call from Paul Kagame of Rwanda, and he pleaded with him to talk to Donald Trump to wait a bit for the sanctions, right? How do I know that? Years ago, Wall Street Journal put that in the news. So it's been fascinating for the past 30 years, or at least I would say maybe for me for the past 20 years, following very closely media and the information available. It is open, but not so open. It's so blunt, but it doesn't register in people's head. We talk about millions of deaths in Congo. He hasn't registered that we are talking about death at Holocaust proportion. Yeah. But it does not bring that attention. But what can European people in Europe do? What can citizens in Germany do? Hold the German government accountable, right? What are your taxpayers' money? How is your tax money spent on the African continent? Germany supporting Rwanda in any shape and form through the European Union. The European Union, as Claude mentioned, has a mineral deal with Rwanda. Our companies are creating artificial intelligence machines in Europe or in Germany using minerals coming from the region, from the Congo, right? Are they using the Congo's cobalt? Are they using Congo's lithium? Are they using Congo's copper? Those things can be fun, but it would take citizens of these countries to ask questions, right? What is German's position as it relates to the genocide in the Congo? Are we going to continue to support those who are pilfering Congo's resources? Are we going to continuously support Rwanda and Uganda without any accountability? Are we going to continue to use mineral resources to build the technologies that we use on a daily basis? The cell phone, the laptops, now all of us are on ChatGPT or Cloud, not even questioning how these data centers are being built with minerals literally coming from DRC. That's the responsibility, I hope. Those who are in the room will help engage in the research of the companies. I mentioned a couple. The list is long. To holding this company accountable and holding also the government accountable.
Yes, thank you so much. And I think, like Francine said earlier, there surely has to be a way of, doing, like, utilizing the natural resources without hiding it into chaos and without millions dying. And every taxpayers have to get the government, answering those tough questions that sometimes people are scared to talk about. So thank you so much, Kambale, for that. And before we continue, I just wanted to quickly shout out to people who are following. And there's someone who, Sharon, say that this is incredibly heavy but necessary to hear. Thank you for your courage to share so deeply. Can't begin to imagine what you, your families, and friends go through on the daily. Yeah, it says it all. And thank you for being here, and thanks for supporting us. And yeah, we have to keep, talking and until people stop dying, stop being killed. Yeah, has to be specific. We continue, and I'm mindful of the time, but if there's a question in the audience, Amal, Francine, please let me know. But I would like, was there a question in the audience, Amal? Thank you. Amal, you're muted in that. Oh, I think they can hear them once they start speaking, though. You're muted, though.
We get the room unmuted, please. If there's a question, or Delphine, I guess you can continue.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, yes, good evening. I just wanted to say thank you to all the speakers for sharing their own personal experiences and all the testimonies. You have really shed light on this 3-decade-long genocide and this worldwide continuous theft of Congolese earthly resources. My question is, after hearing all this, I'm quite affected because I knew of the issue, but not as much as I really learned a lot. What I wanted to maybe hear from the people that spoke today and have already a lot of information about what's going on, what can we take away from today as a way to stand against this issue in the future, and what are some concrete steps or insights that our current and future leaders can take to stop this issue? I know I've already heard a little bit from Kambale, yeah, but I would like to hear, I mean, that was more for us to speak about it and to ask the important questions. Anything else that we could do worldwide as the African diaspora and our community? What else can we do? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Someone notes. That's very important to, I guess, what's the takeaway message? And we'll go with the Francine. What's the audience? I guess the message for them. What can we do? What can everyone do on the different levels? Francine, thanks.
Wow, thank you so much. So the first thing is people should be able to raise awareness about the conflict in Congo. And then when you raise awareness, it's like a first step for people. When people who know, they are educated about the conflict, and then what is behind the conflict, that will actually makes people to take the actions. And also another thing is, last year there were resolutions, what they call it again, 2773, yeah, resolutions which was voted in the Security Council. So Security Council, we all know, is represent all the country were there, and all the country voted about the issue, the conflict in Congo, and how they can stop it. So the resolutions actually, because we had a lot of dialogues, a lot of sort of resolutions in Africa, in terms of Africa, and a lot of like when they will have a dialogue, sort of that, something like that, and then people will see the proposition, a lot of things. So that resolutions that was voted last year in Security Council actually globalized everything. But the problem now is, even though all the country voted, all the countries supported it, yeah, but now why they're not putting that in action? Even like most of the time when they vote a resolution in Security Council, majority of the time Russia you tend to block it. So, but even Russia, all of the countries voted it, and why they're not putting it in place? Right? In actions. That's one of the solutions. So if we can, I'll ask everyone to go and read the resolutions 2773, which was voted in Security Council last year, 2025, about the conflict in Congo. So, and from there, you can educate people and put pressure on your government. You guys who are busy in Germany, you can put pressure in your country, your MPs. You guys elected MPs, so that's one of the things you can put in, like pressure, because you need to understand that the Congo is in the heart of Africa. And it's like I'm a scientist, yeah. So I study science and psychology and all that. So when your body is, your heart is not function anymore, you're dead. Yeah, you proclaim dead. So Africa is technically down, because I don't want to use the word dead, but it's down because the heart is not being fixed. The heart is sick, and the heart is sick for years. Soon as we find the solution to treat the heart, we find the solution for Africa. Of course, it's not going to come as like a magic, but you need to think about Congo is the only country with 9 neighbors in Africa. So if Congo is sick, it's like a branch, like a root. It's going to affect the neighbors. The neighbors go their neighbors. Their neighbors go their neighbors. You see how it goes. So we need to be able to fix that heart of Africa. As soon as we fix that, and how we can do that, by starting to raise awareness, by putting pressure on in terms of this resolution we're talking about, but also demanding justice. Because without justice, nothing is going to happen. We need justice. The victim are demanding justice. I mean, if I have to talk about the victim, my husband, right, he's one of the victims. He was a student during the invasion of Congo. He just started university in the University of Bukavu. So he was following Monsignor Muziwa, which is a bishop, a Catholic bishop. Yeah, his name Monsignor Muziwa. He was killed, and all the students was following him because he was against the first invasion. They all were hunting down. So he has to run to Uganda. He doesn't like me to talk about this story much. I mean, until when he's ready, his name is Sephorian Pombe. So he is that, and then he has to end up in Uganda, and they hunt him in Uganda. And then from Uganda, he was saved to go. They gave him visa to go to live in Norway. So this is a people, a lot of people are close to. You will notice they are victims. So for the sake of the victim, we need to put these resolutions because it was voted. I don't want to repeat myself. You guys need to forgive me. I'm a teacher. I teach at university. We have a tendency of repeating for the students, but I'm really sorry about this. So we need to push this resolution, and we need to ask for justice, because when we have a justice, justice will bring reconciliation. Reconciliation will bring unity between Congolese. I mean, we are united, but there's a victim, some victim, they feel like people who killed my parents, they are in power. They want to, they control mind, they control all the things. They want to, as a human, you want to practice vengeance. It makes sense. But so not all of the victims are like that, but some like that, and I understand it. So we need that. We need that resolution to be put in place. I mean, international community need to, I mean, they voted it. So they need to actually put in action. So how they going to put in action? By us putting pressure. When we put in pressure, educate people what's going on in Congo, and demand justice, the things will move forward. And by that, we're probably going to have a good leadership as well. Thank you so much. Sorry, I was a little bit long. I'm really sorry.
It's okay. You don't have to apologize. Uh, we always say that when you're telling a story and when these facts that we say without asking anyone to, we just do it for that. There's a question for Kambale, and I think you had something to add to the as well, Kambale. A question from the audience from Jean-Paul to Kambale. On Thursday, 26th of Feb 2026, the Congolese government signed a 1.2 billion healthcare partnership. Can you elaborate what that means, and are Congolese people aware of this event? Kambale. Thank you.
So I will try to be brief. I'll do the addition and then the health deal. I hope that everyone in the room will go to freecongo.org. Many people can do many things, but not all of us have to do everything. And levels of in the struggle for Congo, right? It's a liberation struggle. We are all clear of that. Artists will make artwork, musicians and poets, teachers will teach a class on the Congo, journalists will write articles. Everyone has a skill. I'm into the tech space. I'm engaging a lot in the tech space in Ghana. I'm currently in Ghana. And within the discussions in the tech space in Ghana, I'm always finding a way to include the Congo. And for Black History Month, we decided to have a panel on Congo. So in the level of engagement, when people want to be engaged, there are people who will organize protests. There are people who organize teachings. There are people who will organize direct action for divestment. But as long as you're part of the movement, that's the most important thing. Because today we may ask on you to call the European Union. Tomorrow we may ask you to write to the Chancellor, right, or Germany. And actions will be multi-pronged, but your participation and engagement in it will be important. And the formula, when I was a friend of the Congo, we always stated is education, mobilization, and support, right? EMS. The situation in the Congo requires EMS. For those in the US, they know EMS is like ER, you are the ambulance coming. So it's an urgent matter. So EMS is education, mobilization, and support about what is happening so that they take informed actions, right? So they need to know what is happening and how you do it. You show films, you do book readings, you do study groups. There are so many levels you can do. Mobilization are the action I told you, the protests, the event, engaging communities to the Congo, and the support. We believe that no matter what we do on the outside, Congolese on the inside have a role to play. So organizing fundraisers and support to the people on the ground, those who are on the front line, right? The organizations, there are a plethora of them, from Yole Africa to Basanja Coalition and so on, doing the work on the ground for them, raising support for them so that they don't feel alone in what they're doing and they know they're connected to a larger network. That's how I hope everyone in the room will be engaged. As it relates to the health deal, it's painful because they signed it on the day, the anniversary of the signing of the Act of Berlin, right? February 26, 1885, Western nations sat down in Berlin and say, you take this, you take that, and we give King Leopold the Congo, a country the size of Western Europe. I really want you to put in your picture. You are in Germany. Germany is smaller. Congo is the size of Western Europe. That's how big it is. To one man, King Leopold. So on the day of the anniversary of the signing of the Act of Berlin, the Congolese government decided to sign a deal, a memorandum of understanding with the United States for a project that the US is going around the African continent, getting African countries to sign. Nigeria has signed. I mean, there is a whole list of African countries, almost dozens of them have signed. Congo is the latest to sign it, where the US, since they have left WHO, are trying to sign deals with African countries to really get access to data, right? So, data and things of the nature from the health sector of countries. 3 African countries have challenged this deal. Kenya, not the Kenyan president, because the Kenyan president signed the MOU on December 4th last year, but the Kenyan activists through the courts, went to the courts and challenged the president of Kenya for signing this deal with Donald Trump. So the courts in Kenya stopped this deal. Zambia has also decided not to sign it, and Zimbabwe as well. The Zimbabwean government statement is very fascinating. It's many proud to be African. Their statement stated that, paraphrasing what I said, that what the US asked them to sign is almost an insult to Africans, because we're giving away data, right? Our sovereignty in how we manage health data to the US for money, right? They say, we're going to give you $1 billion, but give us your genetic data. How you going to use it, what you're going to use it for, we do not know. The government decided to sign it, right? And they are presenting it as a great deal for the health sector in Congo. What is even fascinating about this is a Congolese who leads the Africa CDC, right? So, no, the US, the African Union has the CDC. It was created after COVID. Given what was happening with COVID, it became very important for Africa continent to have a Center for Disease Control. Is in Addis Ababa. The person who leads the director of Africa is a Congolese. Right? He even stated it a couple of days ago that African countries are very careful with the signing of its data to the US. So it goes back to what Claude said earlier, that the Congolese are facing a challenge internally and externally, right? Internally, we know what our challenges are. Our elite, right? The sellout, the compradors, who have no interest by maintaining power for their own benefits. That's the Congolese government. They are signing an agreement where a Congolese already told them at the CDC shouldn't sign it. 3 African countries are challenging this, and many more will not sign it. I strongly believe that. I don't think Ghana will sign. I mean, I don't want to predict anything, but African countries are worrying that we are giving away our data in the age of AI without any control on how this data will be used, even possibly against African people. So we know our struggle is long. We should know our allies will support us in putting pressure on the negative forces outside of Congo. And we Congolese will continue to fight the internal contradiction. But I will end by saying that even as we discuss the Congo, we cannot discuss the Congo outside the global struggle for liberation, because the struggle of the Congo is connected with every single struggle of human beings fighting for liberation. Like, you can't talk about Palestine. That does not make any sense, right? The same forces in Palestine are the same forces that play in the Congo, are the same forces that play in Sudan, same forces that play anywhere. And those who are opposing us in these places, they don't identify themselves in the national boundaries, right? Nationals, right? They're able to operate globally, not taking into account national borders, right? So you may have Bayer registered in Germany, operating in multiple countries around the world, oppressing people. But we who are fighting for justice, who we are fighting for liberation, sometimes we forget to not connect our struggle. So we have to always find ways to connect our struggles and remind ourselves that in us pressure on the outside, let's make sure to support those who are fighting on the inside of the Congo as well.
Wow, thank you so much, Kambale. I hope Jean-Paul you got an answer. And I think for everyone here, especially for the panelists and everyone, I guess to share all of those resources that you're talking about, and for my network to really include those resources in on the socials to make sure that there's no excuse that we don't know what they were talking about, right? So much. So I'm going around closing this panel, but I would like to start with Claude. Before you give your closing remarks, if you can kindly talk to that as well. Thank you, Claude.
I love the question by the sister in the room. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but the question about you're here and what can you do with it? And that is the point of sharing these stories. Thank you, Francine, for his story, even though I'm sure he might, pass a little about you sharing it, but shout out to him. So to the question that you asked, I want to leave everyone in Germany with a challenge. I would like to see Kambale and Francine have talked about it. I would like to in Germany to put pressure on the Congolese government, because by the way, when you become a witness, by hearing these stories, you become a witness, and a witness is a responsibility. I want to give you a challenge to put the German government to recognize what is happening in Congo as a genocide. Because as soon as they do that, they will start that are actually part of the plan of Congo. They will start also dealing with any institutions, and any institutions that are investing in the perpetrators, countries like Rwanda and Uganda, they will start challenging them. As genocide, they will start funding perpetrators. Back at the end of 2023, maybe it was 24, I can't remember the exact year, but the European Union released a statement that condemned the actions of Rwanda in the Congo. No more than 6 later, maybe even a week later, they gave $20 million to not education, not humanitarian support, not anything that is actually life-saving, not life-saving support to the military. The same military they were accusing of committing atrocities in the Congo. They gave them 20 million euros, and they said that this was to go and, to continue their operations in Mozambique. So they're not just, these sellouts do not operate only in Congo. They operate in Mozambique, in Cabo Delgado, in Central African Republic. In previous years, they were in Haiti, in Mali, in many other places. So I challenge the people in Germany to push the German government to recognize what's happening in the Congo as a genocide. And by the way, I challenge people in every country, us too, here in the US, to recognize what's happening in the Congo as a genocide, because that is going to immediately push for some level of action or some type of action, or at least some accountability.
Thank you so much, Claude. I'll get you to give your closing remark. Were you finished? But before that, there's
but it looks like there's somebody with the microphone that is looking to speak.
Oh, okay, cool. I was going to ask, there was the last question as well. Yes, please go ahead.
I will introduce myself. My name is Zalomo Kazadi Sokona. I would like to add a bit because we're talking to Congo. We didn't really explain the biggest, or to explain in Africa or in the world what represents Congo. That's why I would like to talk about everybody to know. And Congo in Africa is the second biggest country in Africa after Algeria, I think. Without that, talking about Africa, Congo is the first country with rich as many resources in Africa, in the world as well. About the world, Congo is the second country who has the biggest forest, Amazon. Maybe that's where everybody doesn't know all we are not talking about. So I would like to show the people the biggest Congo in the world. In the world is the first country who has 75% of minerals of all the world. So it's very important for people to know what represents exactly Congo. It's not only about genocide, about conflict in Congo. So it's about the biggest of the roles Congo play in the world. So I will want also to say about Congo, and without Congo is in the middle of Africa. Without that is all of the country. If it's stable, it means all Africa will be stable. So that's why the problem of Congo is so deep. All the world knows that if Africa one day stands, it will be standing behind Congo, because Congo has all the stuff or we need for cars, battery, for technology, for satellites. All I can say is in Congo. So that's why the problem of Congo is so deep. But it's not only conflict, it's the leader of Africa. They have to support Congo for Africa to be stable. If Congo is not stable, we can start today till tomorrow. No one, and Africa will never be stable. The stability of Congo is the stability of all Africa. So that's why it means we have to work as one country. All Africans support Congo to be stable, and then the rest will. We have many things, we can do many things, and we can even, I can say, we will not even want to be outside of Africa to look for whatever, because all is in Africa. We can build a biggest Africa, and Africa to be the biggest and richest country in the world. So that's not country, continent, sorry, in the world. So that's why the problem of Congo is deep. It's the leadership, and for all African countries, leaders, not only Congo, but all Africans leaders must know that for a stabilization of Africa, it will start from Congo to support all Africa. That's why I was just that we didn't work it about the true biggest of Congo, which party which represent Congo in the world. So it's all I was about to say.
Thank you. Like the panelists say that it's people who are benefit chaos are the people who continue the country, the continent to flourish, and that's why it's important for everyone to act. And I'm mindful again of the time, but this last one, the question that I don't know if you guys have an answer, but it came from the audience, from Jamalu. Is it true that the M23 are destroying systematically documents that are in the land registry office, so that the real displaced owner of property cannot prove their ownership? So I'm not sure about this, but this is a question that came from the audience. So Claude, I would like you to just quickly say if you know about this, or I don't know, but also say concluding remark, please, as we are closing this panel. Claude, I don't know if you heard a question.
Yeah, I heard the question, whether the M23 are destroying the land registry. Yeah, it's the same exact playbook that actually was happened in post-genocide Rwanda, where people's property is being seized. So in Congo today, there's actually like registrations, like land registrations. They're like starting branches in occupied areas in cities like Goma and Bukavu and stuff. People are being herded to these offices, forced to go and re-register land, being dispossessed. That's part of what is happening in that's of the dispossession. And the M23 itself is not a the real, it's not a force without the support of Rwanda and Uganda, and neither of the two are able to support them with the level, the type of weaponry that they use, the sophistication that they use, without the support of Western powers, especially, as I said before, the European Union, the UK, the US, and a number of others. So yes, that is the case. And then just to land this, to close this, I think the other thing that needs to happen is for people who are not engaged to, ask for, like, hey, what can an observer do? And I always say, don't be an observer. Take action, join in the action. Kambale talked about the action, start with freecongo.org, and then join and look to organizations like the Tubman Network and Friends of the Congo and some of the other sponsors here that are doing the work to make a contribution. Share the stories that you hear here, not just to share them, but to get action going and take on the challenges that we're putting forward. And I would like to land it there, and thank you so much, Delphine. And it's always a great honor to present with you, my brother Kambale. And we are 5 years away from our meeting in Rwanda, when Rwanda, Congo, and the whole region will be liberated. But all of it is tied to not just the local or the region, it's tied to the global. And that's why we are having this conversation in Germany and around the world. We've got hundreds of people that are following on various platforms in various countries. This is a global issue. The Free South Africa movement of yesterday is the free Congo movement of today, and it needs to be global.
Thank you so much, Claude. Ballet, in closing group.
I don't know what I can think. The one thing I will add, the M23 is the Rwandan Defense Force. We need to be very clear about that. The Rwandan Defense Force is the Rwandan military. M23 stands for the March 23rd, March 23rd, 2009 Accord of a rebel group that had a different name. So M23 used to be called CNDP. CNDP used to be called RCD. RCD used to be called. For those listening to this video, they're like, what are you talking about? That is a specialist in change, just like Blackwater. There was a mercenary group in the US called Blackwater when they had problems in Iraq for the human rights violations and war crimes. They changed the name from Blackwater to XZ. So the rebels in the Congo knew that this is perfect. So we may be called EPP today, tomorrow will be called CCC, and people will not have the bandwidth to actually study. So someone will be talking about the M23 here in the press that they are telling you Congo has 150 rebel groups, and you are completely confused about who they are. It's a Rwandan-backed force with the Rwandan military within it, which has been engaged since 1996 to present in destabilizing the Congo with Uganda, and unfortunately, many people have died. So my conclusion will be the way I started it. It has dawned on me now that it has been 30 years since the war in the Congo started. We go to these panels, we go on television, we talk about the situation in the Congo. We don't realize that the years are passing. That's 3 decades, right? There are 30-year-olds all around the world, right? They are even younger than 30-year-old, where we are saying we have a lived experience of 3 decades of war. National justice is very important for me and for many people who have been affected by the conflict. Rwandan President Paul Kagame and Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni stole 30 years of my life, but of lives of millions of people in the region. What does justice look like? Are we saying that we just want to go to another peace deal signed in Washington or Doha? And this coming week, right, people in Uvira have discovered mass graves in the city after M23 retreated from the city. Are we saying that, well, just negotiate peace for minerals, right? So the fundamental question of justice is what's going to bring peace. Because if we don't address the question of justice, right, we have millions, 1 out of 6 Congolese has been killed in the Congo in the past 30 years, right? Every Congolese knows someone who's been affected by the war. Every single Congolese, right? These millions are yearning for justice. And they know that the people who are committing the crime today, after 30 years, the only reason they are committing it is because they've never been held accountable. So if James Kabarebe and his forces killed people in 1996, nothing happened. 1998, I'm talking about the Garrison report, where they massacre Rwandan refugees and Congolese in Gitiki. Nothing happened to them. They went to many towns from that time in 98 to present, right? That I just mentioned, Uvira. 2 years ago, I was talking about Kishishe, Bambo. I can give names of the towns, right? Where we know survivors of those who escaped. Why are they committing these crimes, right? 96 they committed, 98 they continue, years after years they continue. It's because they know and they believe nothing will ever happen to them. So if we don't address the question of justice, which is what Dr. Mukwege stated when he won the Nobel Peace Prize, right? If people go online and listen to Nobel Peace Prize, he lifted up the most important document for Congolese, which is the UN Mapping Exercise Report. A report published by the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights in 2010, on October 1st, 2010, stating that what is happening in the Congo are war crimes, crimes against humanity, and possible genocide if proven in the competent court. Now, proven in the competent court is important, right? So if there is no tribunal, there is no definition that a genocide has happened, actions make it difficult. So in 2010, Congo got a document that says that. We know that the Palestinians have gotten the ICC also to say the same thing, right? That we believe that when people start being held accountable in the court of law, right, that justice is delivered, it sends a message, a signal to anyone committing crimes that next time you kill a civilian, something is going to happen to you. So for all of us, in everything that we are doing, we must fight for justice for the Congolese people, for the implementation of the recommendation of the UN Mapping Exercise Report, so that when justice is served, people in the Congo can finally start finding ways for reparation, finding ways to live in peace and in harmony in the region. But until that justice is served, peace will be elusive. I call for everyone, let's continue to fight for justice for the Congolese people. Let's continue to fight for the implementation of the recommendations from the UN Mapping Exercise Report. So in very close years to come, we can finally be at peace.
Thank you so much, Kambale. Francine, I'd like some closing remarks for this panel from you, please. Thank you. Are you speaking? Because I cannot hear you. Is Francine speaking? We cannot hear you, sorry.
We cannot hear you, sorry.
I think we would take the other mic that they were. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. Oh, there is a message, the comment, and Garrison, who's been supportive of Congo, for years, and Garrison. So he wrote, I like to talk about the fate of Obama bill, the Congo Relief and Security Act of 2006, and the only legislation that Obama shepherded, into law as a senator. There is a similar bill now in Congress in Sudan to cut off arms to the aggressions. Given the failure of the Obama bills, are their effort worthwhile? So it's asking Kambale. I don't know if we have to bring. I know we have the time, but I don't know, Kambale, if you wanna answer that. Or
Very briefly,
Good.
for the Obama bill, what the Obama law, as they call it, the Public Law 109456, passed in 2006, whenever we focus on it, for me, it's not really for the implementation of the bill. It's to expose the hypocrisy of the United States. This bill, written, not implemented fully by Obama, and not any other president, says this in Section 105, that the U.S. Secretary of State has the power to withhold aid to nations destabilizing the Congo. The Secretary of State today, Rubio, has evidence that Rwanda and Uganda are destabilizing the Congo. Before him, Blinken had the same thing. Before Blinken, Clinton had the same information. Who else was there? The senator from Massachusetts, I forgot his name. John Kerry, Susan Rice, go on and on. Every Secretary of State has evidence that the countries, Rwanda and Uganda, are implicated in destabilizing the Congo, yet they have a law in the books saying that the U.S. should revolt aid to this nation, and they don't revolt. What does that mean? It means that the U.S. government is breaking the law, right? So what we call it is a failure of the Obama law, but it is the best teaching tool to activists to ask the legislator, the senator, the Congress people, why is the U.S. breaking the law? Because us seeing how tough legislator can be when asking questions about Epstein, right? So if they can be so detailed and no evidence when it comes to hearing on the DRC, they act as nobody knows what's going on. But it's more a call for American citizens, right, to be aware of those contradictions and them holding the legislature accountable. Remembering that in the biggest economic crisis of our lifetime today, right, people are struggling to survive, yet they are taking their money to fund dictatorship on the African continent. They're not building your schools. They're not building your hospitals. They're not improving your economic situation. Yet they take your tax, at least 30% of it, to fund wars and dictators across the world. So that's how I look at the bill. I look at it as a failure. I look at it as an engagement for activists and mobilizers to go to communities, to share with them this law, Public Law 109456, to let the world know that Section 105 is not being implemented. It means that the US government is breaking the law and that something needs to be done. So that's the response that we'll give. And I'm really happy to hear that she's online. Congo and people of the region, for, I don't know if I should say your service, but for everything you've done, the people of the region, and lifting up our stories in ways that we wouldn't be able to do so for the world to know what is happening in the Congo, Rwanda, Uganda, and the entire region.
Thank you so much, Kambale. We go back to you, Francine.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just going to be brief. The thing is, I want today we learn and we know as the importance of Congo in Africa. So we also learn that the mineral that is people, the war in Congo is economic, and the people who are behind that war, because it's economic, they don't want it to stop. So because they have a profitable, I mean, they've been a lot for years, so they don't want it to stop. But I want you guys, all of us, to remember they are minority still. We are majority, yeah, whether in Africa, diaspora, so we are majority. So in a democracy way, majority always win by the end. We've done it in the past in South Africa. We've done it in the past. Our fathers did it when we were colonized. Then it was at the end, they were like, enough. I know we are independent, but not fully, but they've done something. They did. I always respect what they've done. So it's up to us to continue to finish what they started. I'm talking about this is in terms of Africa. So in terms of Congo, this is why I say at the beginning, I think not at the beginning and middle of our conversation, I was saying that Congo is in the heart of Africa. It is Congo can light entire Africa to Inga Inga project. So but we can't do it if Congo is not stable. Also, I need you to think about a lot of victims. This one, I think Kambali mentioned that Dr. Denis Mukwege. This is a Nobel Prize, prize 2018. Who won Nobel Prize? But he left his father's land because the rebels took over Bukavu. Bukavu, the Panzi, where he been treating thousands women victims of rape. Because rape in Congo has been used as a weapon of war. So we can't, for 1 hour, 48 women, Congolese women has to be raped. For us to get minerals, we shouldn't be that way. We get the minerals. When you go out there and educate people, you can tell people, you can still get a mineral. Congolese, they don't eat mineral, they don't eat diamond, all those cobalt. You can still get a mineral, but you can get it the decent way, treating Congolese like a beast, like that they are animals. They are human beings, and they deserve peace and prosperity. Also, in terms of region, Great Lake region, that region people have suffered because of Kagame and Museveni. These people have divided people who used to live in peace. Today, Congolese and Rwandese, sometimes they look at each other in a way they shouldn't. It wasn't like that because of this man who came and destroyed the region. So we need to stop him. We can do it. We did it, and we can do it. Like I gave an example, we did it, our fathers did it. Our people did it, they kick King Leopold II. We kick the colonialists. We can still do that. Kagame is a house Negro. I'm really sorry for people are watching, but he's a sellout. So we need to kick him out of that region and all the sellout for us to have a free Congo. Go out there, educate people, by educating people will be able to know their rights and they up on your side. I'm ending here. A problem shared is half solved. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francine. And it's it's been a pleasure to have this panel with you guys, to host this panel. It's always a privilege to hear all your wealth of knowledge that you have to share about Congo and sharing your stories as well. And thanks, to you and to everyone who's been listening to our stories. These are stories that we've lived. These are stories that we work with, and stories that we share. But some of the parts that we wish that no one else has to go through, and that's why we're speaking. And I would encourage everyone to really listen, to read, to find that knowledge, and to do something about it. I think the panelists have shared enough of what you can do in action. And closing this panel, I'd like to thank again everyone who's done a lot of work to get this ready, lots of work behind the scenes, but also the sponsors of this event. I cannot forget them. So Friends of the Congo, Great Lakes Action Network, Aglan, Black Star News, Diego Bevila, and everyone else who's done a lot of job in the background. And also thank you to the Tama Network for that beautiful song. Thank you. I would like now to bring on Amal to have some words. Amal is one of the co-founders of the Tama Network. Amal, the floor is yours, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to begin with something that feels simple, but is not children who they are. they are not in responsibility. Malaika and the Big Heart of Congo is not just a children's book. It is a decision about narrative. It is about what we allow our children to inherit: rapture or continuity, shame or strength, silence or language. Let me share a moment from this book. Mama tapped the back of her phone. Inside the battery, she said softly. And inside that battery is a shiny blue metal from the ground in Congo called cobalt. On batteries. So I hung beside my phone. Away, Mama said. And many powerful adults take cobalt without caring about the children on that land. Malaika's eyebrows pulled together. So they take without asking? Yes. So what can we do? That question, what can we do, is a moral awakening. The book is to books does not give her despair. It gives her responsibility. Keep your phone longer, repair instead of replace, ask questions before buying. Environmental awareness here is not abstract, it is relational. It reminds us Congo is not distant. Congo is material present in the very devices we hold. Yeah, next. When she realized that Congo is inside her phone, distance collapses. Traction becomes personal and connection becomes ethical. If our comfort is built on Congo's mineral, then we are connected to Congolese lives. And this is not an accusation, only what is taken. It is students in crowded lecture halls. It is market women negotiating prices at lightning speed. It is engineers and musicians and pastors and coders and activists. It is WhatsApp calls between continents. It is families navigating power cuts and still planning for tomorrow. It is rural and urban. It is fiction and improvisation. It is fiction and brilliance. Here is not a postcard image. It is work. It is struggle. It is memory. It is inheritance. Consciousness in this context is not new. It is ancestral. And yet the story does not romanticize. Arsene misses their father. There's no spectacle, just a quiet tear. Arsene is a Congolese young man that I've supported in the Congolese families, and his father was killed in the conflict. And I remember him crying the tears as he drew beautiful pictures, like the illustration in our book. It's what he remembered doing with his father. There is no spectacle, just a quiet tear. That matters. Our children often carry absence quietly through migration, through conflict, through economic displacement. And our book dignifies that grief. It does not exploit it, and it refuses isolation. Next one. Kindezi, the understanding that a child is raised by a community. Care is shared, grief is collective, and responsibility is distributed. In a history marked by fragmentation, through borders, through extraction, through imposed division, Kindezi, Congolese concept of the art of raising children, becomes more than culture, becomes resistance. Now I want to ask you all something here and online. Who here knew Kim Pavi?
Oh, you want to Oh, okay. No, Timbavita was very long time. She was just a young girl. I mean, young woman. Let me put it away. Who for it was no, it didn't because we don't there a lot of things that the colonialists. I mean, the colonial the Portuguese wanted to impose, and then he created a movement, a spirituality movement, which actually challenged them. At that time, Congo Kingdom, a part of Angola was part of Congo Kingdom. The Congo Brazzaville were part of Kingdom, and they needed a southern part of Gabon, I think, Gabon, if I'm putting it out. So, and then he challenged them, she challenged them, and and people, she had a lot of followers, and people follow her, but you come to the end, and she was betrayed, and then she was killed. Yeah, that's the people should. There's a film, a friend of ours who did a film about.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely right. So Kim Pavita was a young woman in the Kingdom of Congo in the late 17th century. She lived at a time when colonial forces were dividing the kingdom and reshaping spiritual authority. She reinterpreted Christianity through Congo cosmology. She called her people toward unity when fragmentation was being imposed. She was courageous. She was politically aware. And she was executed for that courage, burned alive. Not because she was weak, but because she was powerful enough to threaten imposed control. Let that truth sit. So tonight, we pay homage to this ancestor of ours. Let us take a moment of silence, not only to remember her, to call on the strength of this ancestors as of ours, to guide our paths, to steady our courage, and to remind us that unity has always been part of our inheritance. Hold the silence and then continue gently. Must inherit strength, and we as adults must carry memory with responsibility. Impavita reminds us that Congo stories begin with cobalt. It did not begin with crisis. It began with cosmology, with kingdom, with philosophy, leadership. And when our children inherit that knowledge, their posture changes. And the book does not end in abstraction. Children plant a basil plant together. Adults name commitments out loud. Repair instead of discard. Speak instead of stay silent. Participate instead of drift. Small actions shape culture. And Toto's bilingual books refuse to separate environment from history and grief from dignity and language from belonging. They remind children that Congo is not a wound. Congo is lineage. And refuse to separate environment from history. And they remind children that Congo is not a wound. Congo is lineage. Carries responsibility. And when our children understand that they come from continuity rather than rupture, they stand differently. They inherit courage, they inherit memory, they inherit work to do, and that is where real change begins. I thank you. Claude, to close the evening, Claude, back to you.
Thank you so much for that. for bringing it to the future, Amal. And I think it's important. If you'll just allow me and indulge me for 30 seconds. A lot of people, when we talk about ancestry and challenging systems and challenging oppression and systems that are built to perpetuate what is happening in the Congo and around the world in many communities, a lot of parents will say, I don't want to teach my children hate. Education is not hate. Education is building the future. And education that brings about change is actually a responsibility. It's not just a duty, it's a responsibility. And we have a responsibility to disrupt systems that are oppressive, harmful, and systems that that do harm to people. So with this, I want to bring it to collective action and closing. And this, just, Marx here, the awareness is not, without organization, preserves comfort. We are not here to build a comfort zone because nothing of value grows in comfort. I loved how blunt you were, Francine. We're also not here to privilege politeness over change. And one of the actions that we didn't talk about, this is led by the Tubman Network, is a launch of a Congo-focused working group, Congolese-led, diaspora-connected, action-oriented, and within 30 days, we'll have clear priorities, steps that will be defined. And the work extends into schools and into economic spaces. In March, this dialogue will be presented at the Berlin Venture Capital. Congo is central to global supply chains and investment strategies. Economic benefit cannot remain detached from ethical. So this isn't to plead, this is to bring about accountability. Justice requires accountability. Peace requires justice. Justice requires truth. And that is what is going to bring about lasting peace. The registration link is available. And there is a QR code, share in a second. And just to land this, responsibility is not guilt, it's agency. Congo is systems that normalize extraction and reward indifference. Do not be indifferent, and do not be an extractor and an agent of extraction. If tonight remains emotion, nothing changes. If it becomes organization, something shifts. Attention fades, organization builds power, and history will not measure how informed we were. It's nice to be informed, but being informed and not using that knowledge, and let me speak to people who are in the Western world because this may not be a common thing, but being informed and not using the it's like having a bunch of gift cards and not taking them to the store and cashing them. Any less information we get, any awareness, it needs to be fuel to the engine of change, and change needs to be disruptive. Attention fades, organization builds power. And history will not measure how informed we were, it's gonna measure how and what we chose to build. So let's continue to build. Thank you so much, everybody. I see that the audience continues to grow, online especially, but we have to end it here, and we'll be scan the QR code so that you can continue to follow. And I'll turn it back over to you, Amal, if there's any other remarks in the room.
Yeah, Mimi asked when are you guys in Berlin? Because yes, this is only the beginning of a long-term collaboration and action plan. So we look forward to connect with all of you. Thank you for joining.
Wonderful.
Any last words? Okay. We end here.
Thank you, guys. And thank you for everybody online on the stream. And Francine, thank you for the sacrifice and the travels and everything. And I hear that it was difficult to get around Berlin today because of all of the strike with public transportation, but you were able to make it. So we're grateful that you made it safely, and safe travels to Kambale, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Yeah, have a good rest of your day and have a good evening.